no, 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 no. Yeah. It's TB on the track again. Baby, tell me what you want from it. Like me, see, I run the street like I'm young Gotti. They really think that they can stop me, but they can't do me nothing. Baby, tell me what you want from it. Like me, see, I run the street like I'm young Gotti. They really think that they can stop me, but they can't do me nothing. Baby, tell me what you want from me. Won't you let me know quickly? Hot boss free, she feeling risky. She wanna do something.
I was in a relationship with a girl, and I can see from the jump that her son was not 100% just like how we are.
She's calling out, she's crying out, she's saying she's depressed, she wants to kill herself. How did it get to that point?
Exactly, like, was there no one around?
That's what you're saying, but I think like society's become so regimented. We're expected to behave like this and do this.
Oh yeah,
if you look at people who are great, not just the okay mediocre people are great in their fields. It could be music, art, whatever it is. There's always some sort of personality.
Yeah.
I think that could also be down to it's almost self-inflicted mental health. Like people react differently to different things. So people taking weed or skunk or whatever. Now it's strange. There's so many different things over it and on top of it, and these things. Yeah, it is almost so. Where I could smoke and have no side effects, you could smoke and. Hello, welcome to He Say, She Say. We're going to talk about the stigmas around mental health.
Alright, so people, where do you think the stigma comes from in mental health?
I think a lot of it's like, in certain aspects, is cultural. There's kind of like, I think a lot of people find it hard to believe things that they can't necessarily see. So if, for example, you go to someone who has a broken arm, it's very easy to notice the fact that the person has a broken arm. But when it's something mental, a lot of the times people tend to brush it off and be like, oh, well, I feel a bit down and I can't quite pinpoint what is happening with me. And they're like, oh, well, smile, and then your day will feel better.
And as you said, it's cultural, or sometimes even upbringing. Sometimes the family around you are not sensitive to those things, and if you're acting a certain way, they'd much rather give you a beating or tell you about yourself rather than deal with what's going on in your mind, because they don't feel anything mental, so they feel you should be the same as them.
Definitely also a lack of knowledge in terms of mental health as well. So obviously I'm from Nigeria. The way we deal with situations like that, they would either say is either you're possessed by a demon, and the way we're going to resolve this is we're going to the pastor, 10-day fasting, spirit water. Do you get what I'm saying?
So most likely make it worse as well.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and I really believe like in today's society we really need to get down to the bottom of this. So either that being mental health being installed in schools, so a lot of us are educated in it. So the young ones are educated in it. If they need help, they've got someone to go to as well. You know, do you think it's more like a cultural thing as well? Like just maybe Africans, maybe like Caucasians. Do you think it's?
I feel like mental health in, okay, as you said, Africans or Caribbeans or Caucasians and stuff like that. I would say it's more rampant with Caucasians, but they're more open about it. They'll not hide it, as in like Caribbean households, hardly ever will the child go, I think I've got mental health problems or something's wrong with me. Yeah, because they'll feel like they're gonna get in trouble, or they're scared to tell they're scared to tell their parents and that. Whereas Caucasian homes, they'll cry about it, talk about it. The mums and dads will have a sit down or go and seek help for something.
I think more black families find mental health more embarrassing. It's like I was in a relationship with a girl, and I can see from the jump that her son was not 100% just like how we are. And I said to her, he needs to be checked out, you know. She's like, no, he's been checked out already, he's good, he's fine. I'm saying he is not good. Obviously I'm trying to find the nicest way to say your son looks like he needs extra help. And she was fully adamant, like, no, he is fine. but then he can see him jumping off in my car, kicking my window, and I'm thinking, so I'm looking at her going, so I'm looking at her saying, is this right?
Yeah, it's not.
And it literally took me 6 months for her to be like, for her to start crying and being like, she's always known, but she just made it in her mind that there's nothing wrong with it. And I think a lot of black families that I've kind of come across it's always comes round like that, like they don't want their kids to be
ignorance is bliss, isn't it?
100%.
There's a stat where when black people get into the mental health system, it's generally through the criminal justice system. So they've been picked up by the police, they've been picked up, they've gone through court and it's been identified there. Whereas when white people, it's generally through GP referrals because their families support them and take them to the GPs. But the families of black individuals, it is almost, they're ashamed of it. So no one addresses it until they come into the system and they get the support that way.
I think sometimes it's a fear of failure, or you feel like as a parent, if your child has a mental disorder or something else, like it's a reflection on you. Do you know what I mean? In certain cultures, like in Italy anyway, it's not really. It's kind of like a man's a man. Do you know what I mean? You can't have anything wrong, and I think that's another thing as well. I think men tend to be there tends to be more stigma around men having mental issues and coming forth with that more so than women, because a man's role is to be the man, to be the breadwinner, to be the strong person, and for them to ever say anything to kind of break down those barriers is a big step. So even especially like any culture that has a very strong how can I put it, like presence, as men have to be in a certain way, women have to be in a certain way, it's very difficult for them to kind of break out of those boundaries and actually talk and converse about, okay, well, I can't cope, or I have these issues. And it's, I don't know, it can cause a lot of issues. I know with members of my family, it was almost as if the parents didn't want to bring their children to certain places because they feel like they failed their child. Do you know what I mean? So it was more about them and how they would deal with that rather than trying to solve what their child has.
Not being rude, but in a way it's kind of selfish.
It is.
With regards to your child, because obviously
it's neglect.
You know, that child could be in deep depression, knowing that there's something wrong, but they feel afraid to come out and speak about it. You know, and like let's put it in a different kind of context and with regards to like males and females. Males, when they're going through situations, they keep it in, they hold it in, and they usually go in depression. Whereas women, they're more vocal about their emotions. So if you see the stats, you'll more or less see that men become more depressed than women.
I think that's true in certain cultures. So I think there's a correlation between being controlled and depression and wanting to commit suicide. So Asian families, Asian women, because they're generally controlled by their husband, that's why I know it's a very broad generalization, but this is the data, they're more likely, they're 3 times more likely to commit suicide or attempt suicide than their white counterparts, just because and the reason for doing so is because they feel controlled and they feel that they can't get out. So as much as there is a male-woman thing, and women are more vocal in our community, I think in others it isn't as consistent.
Is it like, do you feel that, is there, like in the UK, is there anything that we could actually work on, like how to for people to get help? Maybe there might be like a private line or just for
I feel like, you see private lines and that, we've had them for ages, it's just that we don't really call them, you know? We don't feel like we don't know what to say, they're not in front of us, so we don't know. It's like, sometimes it's easier for people to have a conversation with someone they can't see, but sometimes it's easier for someone to be in front of them and ask them the questions that will pick at their brain for them to talk about, because most people won't say what they're feeling really. You get me? So I feel like if they maybe once a week had someone come to schools, you know, for people who wanted to go and talk to them, have a little, what do they call it, AA meeting, you know, and then Alcoholics Anonymous or whatever, them type of meetings there. And first of all, you're meeting people like you, so you feel more integrated, human, and at ease. And second of all, you're actually tackling and go and hearing what people are going through, which is similar to you, and it will help you grow through it.
I think there needs to be more ways in letting people know that it's alright to ask for help, because asking for help is almost somewhat frowned upon. It's like,
it's like taboo.
Do stuff like, I don't need no one, I can do this by myself. And sometimes you actually need help. Like even speaking from myself, like growing up, I was a very down child. I was very depressed. I suffered depression, still do from time to time. When I lost my voice for up to a year where I couldn't talk, couldn't sing, couldn't do anything, and I was like at a really low point. Not to the point of wanting to commit suicide, but I just felt like I lost myself. And then I went through my work, which I'm thankful for. They sent me to see a psychiatrist, and when you go to see them, you just have this stigma, this thing. I was just going to be some person judging you, sitting down, writing with a piece of paper. Oh, so you're crazy? Yes. But it was nothing like that at all. And like I went for 6 sessions. The first session was really weird and it was really hard. But as I went more and more, I was like, okay, I can see how this is actually helping. It feels so much better to talk to someone, and I find that it's easier to talk to someone that you don't know, that you may never have to see ever again, because you can just let everything go and let everything free, and know that you don't have to walk down the road and be like, she knows my deepest, darkest secrets, and be like, can you tell anyone? So I feel like there needs to be a way to make it more, again, like I said, acceptable to ask for help, to have more maybe not helplines, but somewhere that someone can
accessible.
Yeah,
accessible.
Even if they could just read something.
I think generally though, as humans, or especially in the community that we live in, we're very much in a frame of mind that you don't really talk. Like you sit on the underground, you don't converse with people, you don't make eye contact, you don't have any form of conversation unless it's with people that you generally know. Especially within the younger generations, how many of them sit down and they converse on their phones or on Instagram and social media platforms more than they do face to face. And I think that kind of makes it harder later on down the line to actually have a communicator, have that interaction with someone and say to them, do you know what, look, I'm feeling this way and I need help for X, Y, and Z. I think when there's so much kind of a detach in terms of human interaction with people, when it actually comes to expressing how you feel and fully expressing how you feel, it's very difficult.
But I think even if everyone did express how they feel, mental health affects 1 in 4 people. So there's not enough resources to fulfill all that need. That's millions of people, and I can't imagine NHS paying for psychiatrists for 1 in 4 people.
That's where I think social media sometimes can be a help as well, because loads of people, that's their outlet. Loads of people with mental health, sometimes that's their outlet to talk about it, or maybe they've got a talent that they use and it's just taking their mind away from that. And, most people with mental health, you'll see them online talking about it, then they get more people on their liking their page and talking about it as well. Oh my gosh, I've gone through this. Then they become an ambassador, and then that helps them through it, and then in turn they help others.
But then on the flip side of that, you've got people that they might post something on Insta, for instance, I'm so depressed, or I feel really down, and a lot of people, the first thing that they think is attention seeking. You just want the likes, you just want this. They don't think maybe this person is actually screaming out for help. So
like Sinead O'Connor, the video that she made, and it was all over Facebook and the news and that, she's calling out, she's crying out, she's saying she's depressed, she wants to kill herself. How did it get to that point?
Exactly. Was there no one around?
There's no one. You're a star. You hear me? If stars are going through that and feeling lonely, imagine what people that aren't famous are going through.
I think it's like sort of like, for my, it's like the way modern society is formed now. It's making more people mentally ill because it's not actually addressing what people need as individuals. So I think 2 things that basically happen. One is like there's more mentally ill people because the way our life is structured now goes against our normal nature as a human being. And 2, I think there are certain people, especially kids, are getting diagnosed with mental problems that really don't have mental problems. All they need to do is run in the field like kids do and do things that kids do.
That's why the world's changed a lot. As kids, we used to play out. We used to do bad. We used to be kids. Nowadays, they've lost that. and it's cooped up inside them when they grow up. They're
So
acting
then
out.
they can only act out at school when they're with friends rather than sitting at home on PlayStation when they're
See, but the downfall of that is sometimes when you have those kids that run around and X, Y, and Z, there are some who actually do have like learning difficulties or things like that, and it's not picked up upon because they're just being kids or they're just acting out. Do you know what I mean? Like, I know several younger children who have Asperger's or who have autism, and even down to that, people don't understand that autism, for example, is such a wide spectrum. So you can have mild autism, you can have severe autism. It takes different forms, and sometimes if a child is not concentrating or not doing certain things, it seems as that child is just a problem child. Let's put them through that rather than saying, okay, well, let's look a little bit further deeper into this and see why they're acting in a certain way. So there's a negativity to what you're saying, although there is positive in obviously running around and being a child.
I understand what you're saying, but I think like society's become so regimented, you're expected to behave like this and do this.
Oh yeah,
if you look at people who are great, not just the okay, mediocre people are great in their fields. It could be music, art, whatever it is, there's always some sort of personality flaw. Somewhere in there. It's their genius is set off with something else, which kind of makes. And now, if you're just trying to stifle people and make them walk down this particular path, you're instead of just like accommodating them. Okay, this one's a little bit special. He needs a little bit more room. He needs to do this and like that, and to nurture that. That could possibly be creativity or whatever. Sometimes it is negativity, but you deal with it as you give the people the room to grow. Then I think there'll be less of a problem. They just want everybody to behave in a certain way, do a certain thing.
You go to school and
But my
every
friend,
child's different.
Yeah, my friend, she had a little son, right, and he just used to run around like he was crazy, like you know what I mean, but just run around. And the thing was like he would just do stuff, and it wouldn't be like if you stop him, he wouldn't like, oh, I want to do that. He would just leave it and run to something else. And then all she did, right, they think, oh, your son's a bit, he needs to go see a specialist. All she did, cut out sugar, cut all the artificial preservatives and all the rest of it. Kid was fine. I was playing with the kid, she came round, I was playing Connect 4, and he won. And I was like, okay, let's play again. He won again. I went, wait a minute, this isn't a fluke. So we started playing, and every time he played first, he won. I got, your kid is possibly being that magical genius here because I'm not rubbish at this type of thing, and like he's kicking me, you know, everything like that. So it's like, you know what I mean? He's got some sort of talent base offset, and I think like society. If you watch even like what's that comedian?
Jim Carrey.
Not Jim Carrey, the English guy, he does QI. He's really really smart, but he had mad depression. He just like went missing. I forgot his name. He used to be a partner with a guy that does.
The guy with glasses.
No, he used to be partner with a guy that does a house in America. He used to be.
Hugh Laurie.
Not Hugh Laurie, but Stephen Fry.
Stephen
Fry.
Right. Okay, yeah.
He's the guy that's crazy intelligent. There's not a topic you can't mention that he doesn't give you some sort of deep insight into you never even thought of. But he went through depression. You know what I mean? And I think it's.
I think sometimes
it's not only depression. Sometimes you don't realize that them having a mental disability is actually a blessing in disguise. As you said, that someone mad intelligent. You know, there's some athletes who have had like ADHD. They've been very strong. Some obviously they've been that strong. They just control that.
They challenge it.
You know?
But that's why I think there needs to be something that kind of like, if you know what you've got, you can find the best way to channel it. Automatically, even when we're talking about trying to kind of diagnose these children, there's an automatic assumption from most people that it's going to be to stifle them and it's going to be to control them. And it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. Just because you acknowledge that this person has something, you can channel it in the best way possible. And that's what I think needs to be done, is that automatically that stigma that comes with someone having a mental condition.
You think that's something?
It's like that's it. That's the end of your life. It's not the end of your life. There's different ways to channel it. So, like you said, the person who trained with you who has ADHD, like channeling that in a certain way. People who have Asperger's tend to be very intelligent in other forms.
It's like you were saying, you can't teach a fish how to climb a tree. You know what I mean? You're gonna have to teach a fish how to swim the best it can. Exactly. You know what I mean? That's what's happening with these kids. They're growing up. They might have a mental health issue, but they're going to a school where they first of all meeting a teacher that's first meeting all of your class at the same time, and is taught to teach all of you
Everyone the same.
exactly the same. And if you act out, you get sent out of the classroom. You know what I mean? When really you should be taught by someone who can actually teach you what you need and nurture you the way you need to be nurtured in order to thrive like the rest of the class, or even more so.
Because also, I know this sounds a bit mad, but have you noticed, there's been those gangs, and you got that hype one, like, what? He's the that hype.
Yeah.
How do we know that he hasn't got ADHD or
mental health issue of some
you know,
sort?
like,
some
and people just say, he's mad, you know.
And sometimes it's even depression. Sometimes it's a broken home, or sometimes they're not getting that love at home, and they're angry. You know what I mean? That is a factor in it as well. But you're right. In loads of cases, in a group of friends, there's always like that one person that's always a bit different, but you didn't notice it after you get older. You get me?
Sometimes it's even a quiet one.
I think that could also be down to, it's almost self-inflicted mental health. Like people react differently to different things. So people taking weed or skunk or whatever. Now it's strained with so many different things over it on top of it, and these things, it is almost so where I could smoke and have no side effects, you could smoke and be that hype guy, or become paranoid, start having delusions, and all these things that are a part of it. You don't understand where it's come from. So now you're labelled as the mad one, and you carry on smoking, but thinking it's just your personality. But really, it's a self-inflicted mental health problem that you can't manage because you don't know where it's come from.
But do you also think it's like, as I said, like sort of like the way society is? So like, it's like when I listen to radio, like let's say World War II, you had the Blitz and all the rest of it. Nobody was coming out traumatized. You wake up, the street had gone, right, Nixon is dead, but then everybody just gets on with it, and nobody's going through any mental issues because it was more of a community, and everybody's had the feeling of going through the same thing, and they would support each other. And so whatever trauma they went through together as a society and talking through it, and there was no sort of long-term problems. But now everybody's just insulated. You're yourself. You don't even say hello to your neighbour. You don't know your neighbour's name, and so if you go through this on your own,
you're alone.
Yes, and so
even as you said, like wars or whatever, like even soldiers nowadays, they're seeing friends get killed and blown up and stuff, and they're coming out and they don't even know that they've got PTS and post-traumatic stress. And that's same with people from normal areas and gang culture. They might have seen their friends get stabbed, they might have seen horrible things, but they're not getting the support to deal with it. You get me? But at the end of the day, have got actual affliction. You get me? So I think it's all about support. As you said, it does start at home. And that's the support you really need. Starting at home, you need your parents to actually take heed of what they're seeing. They need to listen to you. If you're bold enough to tell them, like I have a problem, most people aren't. But you just need to get over that fear factor and talk. Because if you don't talk, then you're just going to handle it yourself for the whole of your life and become worse.
Can I just jump on one? Sorry. Let's jump on one thing that you said about the fish and the monkey and the tree. So. But based on that, so I guess there's a cultural differences in terms of when black people are assessed by a generally white consultant. So you could see two Jamaicans talking like across the road, and they're just being expressive, blah blah. But as a black man, I don't think anything of it. If a white person sees it, there's they think they're arguing, they think there's some form of trouble, and it's the same in mental health. Certain things adjust your way, and people get labelled. So I've seen someone who is under mental health, but they've been labelled as having a sex risk because they see a woman and they just try to her up. It's just a Jamaican culture. It's just how they talk. It isn't. I think there's often a cultural imbalance, which means now there's a disproportionate number of black people in the black and minority ethnic people in the mental health system. In comparison to their white counterparts, and I'm not sure. And they're given harsher treatments. They put on sections twice as many times as their white counterparts. They're given physical medications such as tablets, injections, whereas their white counterparts will get talking therapies and counselling and stuff. So there is a disproportionate representation of black and minority ethnic people in the mental health system. So I think where, yes, it is a case of black families need more awareness and needs to need to have more insight, be more informed about it. I think there's also, on the flip side, how we're viewed by other people, and they need to take some responsibility for that as well.
And then isn't that, I agree with you say that, right? I tried to explain that to my son, like the way you behave on the street, you might not do anything, but the way they view you is totally different. He was him and his friends, and they were just in Walthamstow going shopping, and some woman said that they were shoplifting. They weren't doing anything at all, they were just standing around, just because they had a hoodie. But if the mental health establishment is based on looking at European subjects and how European people behave, then it doesn't really matter how many sort of like black practitioners you have if that's the model that they're using. So you can't. So you would need. You would still. What you actually need is sort of like mental health, looking from so like you need sort of like African psychiatrists looking at African people, or Caribbean people looking at black people, or whatever from every society. So Asian. Asian society, and then relating
people that understand the culture
and making a model based on that, because it doesn't matter who's practitioner. If they're using a European model, it's going to fail the majority of the world.
It's DB on the track again. Baby, tell me what you want from it.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, I think the way that mental health is now, I think society is causing it more than it used to. And what people are looking at now are just looking to fix the symptoms rather than actually going to the causes of why is there what is it that's changed, that's making this, and what can we do to rectify that? Simply then just try to change Johnny because Johnny thinks it's
Mental health in our society is very important, but sometimes very, very hidden. And we all need to stand behind mental health. Find out you can't really find out who's got mental health, but sometimes just look for signs, look for people in your phone book, look for people who's down, just look for people who's kind of always craving attention, because sometimes they might be craving the attention what they actually need.
In terms of mental health and the stigma, all I will say is ignorance isn't bliss, but equally don't accept something just because someone in a white coat tells you. If you know yourself and you know your people, support where you can and get the right help.
So in today's society, I feel that there's a lot of pressures that's going on with regards to mental health. Now what we need to do is we need to go to the solution. Whether that being either professionals going into schools, educating the children, giving them the confidence to come out of their shell and express themselves and seeking help, or a parent, communicating with their child.
Basically, I think the nurturing should start at home, the family. As we always used to say, when people say now, it takes a village to raise a child. So your home, your community, you need to have that conversation, have those conversations with the kids in your community, with your own kids to begin with, and then hopefully you can tackle the situation and learn how to not deal with your kid, but learn how to nurture your kid in the ways that he or she needs to be.
Okay, so I think that it's very important to talk. Talking is important. Find someone that you can talk to. Like, I've got my little Zay right here. But yeah, talking is important. We need to find a way to, get rid of the stigma and make it more, I don't want to say acceptable, because it is acceptable. You are who you are. If you've got issues or mental disorder, it's all right. There's nothing wrong with you. You're okay. But just talk and, get help.
Yeah, I kind of second what she says. I think as well, in order to kind of break down the stigma around mental health, you also need to change the perception in your own mind and how you view it as well. So a lot of the times, I just kind of seen in the discussion automatically when someone is diagnosed with something, or when you think about a certain mental disorder, you automatically think negative. There's positive things that can come from it, and I think it's just about gaining that knowledge, being more open with those around you, and talking about it, and trying not to judge people based on anything that they might have, or you believing they might have something. So yeah, definitely communication is key, knowledge is power, and
She wanna do something. On my line all day, just ringing my phone like, oh na 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 na. She be